coffee's not terrible. That's good. I've had some pretty terrible coffee. I was at this house where, like, she didn't have enough. She ran. What happened? Anyway, the coffee was like really light, really light, and she put the coffee back into the water thing and ran the coffee back over the beans.
Oh, to try and make it stronger.
I was like watching in horror, and it was my first time in their house. I didn't want to be rude. Oh, it was so bad. And I was just talking about how much I loved coffee, and how she gives me this cup of coffee that she worked really hard to make terrible. They were live.
All right.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with Kara Britanik. Yes. Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, and in my head, I think it's like breakneck tick.
Some people say Britanik.
Britanik. Well, your maiden name is much easier to pronounce.
Yes.
Sachs.
Yes.
That's easy.
Yes. Until you're in that crowded bar trying to yell at the bartender what your last name is, and it gets awkward.
Yeah. I guess that happens. That's probably the only reason why you change your name, just to avoid that awkward situation. Yeah. That's cool. So we were just talking about coffee. How do you make your coffee? Do you drink coffee every day?
Most days.
Yeah. What are the reasons why you wouldn't drink coffee? Is it you just get lazy, or you don't want to make it, or?
Yeah, if I'm lazy or too busy, like if I have to go somewhere and didn't get up early enough.
Yeah. So what's your go-to?
Type of coffee? Beans?
Yeah, let's start there. Shoot.
Ooh. I really like Compass Coffee. Their beans are pretty good.
Okay.
For local. Or we've gotten some from Zeke's recently.
Yeah.
Pretty good. They're Guatemalan. I like.
What do you think of Peregrine?
I haven't had much of their coffee.
That's all I eat. That's all I drink. Yeah, I'm drinking this Panamanian coffee David got me. That's what we're drinking right here. Mm-hmm. It would be better if I brewed it better, but I have messed up the brew process, so it's a little bitter, I think. But the coffee's really good.
Yeah, and then probably this weekend probably tomorrow I'll make cold brew, so it's ready for the weekend. Yeah,
so walk me through your cold brew process. You've told it to me before, but I've always forgotten, but now I got you on the record.
So we have this pitcher. It's by some Japanese brand that I can't remember. But it's a pitcher that has a filter that sits inside it. So you fill the little filter thing up with beans that are coarsely ground.
Okay, so like more coarse than French press?
Yes.
Okay.
Like we'll pulse it in the grinder like 3 or 4 times, like 3 or 4 pulses.
Like
so pretty coarse.
Is it more chunk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, more chunk.
Bean chunks.
Yes. And then you pour cold water through the filter till the water is filled up in the pitcher, and then you just let it steep. It's essentially like making tea, but with coffee beans.
Got it.
And
there's no like very slow drip to it. You just you steep it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like some places, I think like Qualia Coffee, I've seen they'll just get like big tubs and put the beans in there, fill it with water, and let it go. But then you have to strain it out.
Right.
Which we did before we had the pitcher, but now we have the pitcher with the filter.
Right. So you could just do coarse beans in a tub of water, and then filter the coarse grinds out.
Yep.
Huh. How long do you soak?
We let it go about 36 hours.
Right.
So if I make it like Thursday afternoon, it's good for Saturday morning.
Yeah. And then what's the water to bean ratio? Like if you get a bag of beans, do you usually just do like a whole bag at a time, or?
So we can only do like a pitcher at a time, so it's however many beans fit in the filter. But I can't remember, before we had that, I can't remember what the ratio was for beans to water.
All right. But like half a bag, quarter of a bag, 3 bags.
Maybe half a bag.
Okay.
For like a pitcher.
Yeah.
Something like that. I guess you could play around with it too to see what you like.
Yeah. So you do cold brew is your normal go-to. Like, do you drink cold brew cold, or do you warm up cold brew?
No, drink cold brew cold.
Just saying. So, everybody has their different things. So you drink that cold. Do you drink your cold coffee different than your hot coffee?
It depends.
Yeah.
If it's cold brew, since it's like less acidic for
Right.
me, I can drink that black. But
Right.
a lot of times, drip coffee, I want to add a little milk.
Oh, I have some milk. Do you want some milk?
Oh no, this is good.
Okay, cool. Well, I can get milk. it's
This is
actually
good.
half and half.
That's fine too. I usually buy cream because it lasts longer, and then we can use it in cooking.
That works. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, most of the time, hot coffee, unless it's like pour over or like something fancy from like a good coffee shop, I can drink black.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And then, do you make pour over at home, or are you just cold brew all the time?
Cold brew when it's like warmer. So like this weekend, since it's gonna be like 80 today.
Yeah.
In the winter, we have a coffee maker, but it kind of simulates pour over.
Yeah.
Because it's got like a shower head, water system that like sprinkles the water over the beans.
Your coffee pot has a shower head.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So it's kind of like pour over, but with the ease of a machine.
Yeah. When did you get into coffee? Has it always been there for you, Karen? When did your relationship with coffee start?
More so as an adult. Like I didn't really drink coffee in college or anything. I think once I started working.
I thought you were gonna say drinking. Once I started drinking, boy, that's when I really needed coffee.
I think then, and then just as I got more into food, got more into beverages as well.
Yeah. I made it my entire submarine, or my entire time on the submarine. I maybe with like 3 or 4 cups of coffee in the 2.5, 3 years that I was on the boat. And then I spent about 2 days in a cubicle, and I was addicted. Addicted. Like 3, 4, 5 cups a day. Haven't looked back since.
Yeah, I think that's probably when it started for me too,
Yeah.
when I had to work in a cubicle.
Yeah, what is it about cubicles?
It must just be like that office culture, like everyone else has their cup of coffee, so maybe I should have a cup of coffee too.
Yeah, if it was cultural, then I think the submarine would have gotten me. Because the submarine was very coffee culture. So, I mean, maybe there's a cultural component. But did your cubicle have any windows? Did you have like any natural light, or were you in?
No, we were like underground.
Yeah, right. Similar. I was in a skiff.
Right.
But you would think that being a submariner, like that wouldn't affect me that much. But there's a difference between when you don't expect to see the sun for a long time and when you
could see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so for whatever reason, the psychology of a cubicle crushed my soul, and the psychology of a submarine did not. Which I find fascinating a little bit. I think it sort of speaks to the power of what humans can like wrap their heads around or prepare for psychologically, right? Like if you expect a workout to be really tough, you can do it.
Right.
And you can get through it and you can rise to the challenge. But if you show up and you're like, this is going to be a cakewalk. Or if you show up to the gym, for example, let's just say you're walking down the street and I pull you off the street and you had no preparation for a workout. I'm like, do a workout. You're like, whoa, that sucked so bad. I can't believe I had to just do that workout. Right.
Or in the middle of it, you're going to be like, I can't do this, and it's going to totally defeat you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like the same way if you picked me up right now and you plop me on a submarine, I would hate it. But with enough preparation and time and anticipation and, you can do it.
Right. You like psych yourself up for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, Cube Life. Cube Life broke me. It broke me. It got me addicted to coffee. And I did not like Cube Life. It sounds like you didn't really enjoy it either.
Not really. I was, in a cubicle, well, I guess for a while. 4 or 5 years.
What'd you do in the cube?
A couple things. So my first job in DC was working at a hotel, the Gaylord National over in National Harbor.
Oh, cool.
Before I started working there before it opened.
Yeah.
And then through the opening and for a couple years, so I had a couple jobs there in the sales office. That's when I really decided I don't like sales.
Got it. What is what does a hotel do for sales? Is it like conference room stuff? And...
Yeah, so that hotel has a whole convention center attached to it. So
okay.
the primary focus for the sales team was bringing in the meetings and
Right.
conferences and stuff like that.
And you didn't. What about sales did you not like?
I think it was more so like some of the salespeople just rubbed me the wrong way. Like
Yeah.
it was like obviously they have numbers to make and they have goals to hit and expectations and pressure put on them, but like
Right.
some of them just didn't treat everyone very nicely because they were
Yeah.
like so focused on hitting those goals.
Right.
And in a couple of the roles I was in, I wasn't working just for one or two of the salespeople. I was working for all of them. So it's like when one salesperson is trying to like make them a priority over everyone else, like
Right.
I can't do that because I'm working for all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's, you know, like running the gym and doing the gym thing. Eventually I had to confront the concept of sales.
Mhm.
And it was something that I always felt like a little shady about. I don't know, like I felt dirty, I guess is the better word. Like that point where I have to ask for your money.
Right.
But then, like, the more I started thinking about it, I read a few books and listened to some podcasts, and this isn't directly applicable to your situation, but more my experience with sales is like I went back and I thought about all of my positive sales experience. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, I wanted to buy this car, and I bought it, and
Right.
that was great. And I wanted to buy this ticket to an amusement park, and they gave it to me, and I had a blast. And so the vast majority of sales are just trying to figure out, is this what you want? And then here's the way you get it, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought about my negative sales experiences, and that's when I felt like I was being duped. I was being lied to. I was being cheated. I was being swindled.
Right.
And then, like, I think the negative always stands out in your mind more significantly than the positive. And so when I would think of sales, it would be all of the negative experiences, and I had to really dig deep to think about the positive experiences.
Right.
And so I think that, like, once I started to realize that sales are literally just creating a thank you transaction, and then my process of convincing you of the sale is the exact same as convincing you that it's not the sale too, right?
Mhm.
Like a sale is about, in my opinion, a sale is about leading somebody to a decision that's best for them.
Right.
And so all I do is communicate what the gym is and what we do. And if you're like, nah, I don't want that, or I don't want to do that, that's great.
Right.
Now, next.
Yeah.
I mean, not like that, but you know, but if it is for you, then great. Here's how to do it.
Yeah, and I think I've come to that kind of same conclusion as well, because with the wedding coordination I do, anytime I meet with a potential new couple for our initial consult, it's essentially a sales pitch, and in my mind I never could see myself as being a salesperson, but I guess I frame it in my mind like I'm just going to meet these people, learn more about them, see if we get along great, and
Right.
then tell them about how I can help them with their wedding, and then if it's for them, awesome. If
Right.
not, if they want something more or they don't like me or whatever, like cool, we're not going to work together, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like the frame of mind, but then also like I guess I'm more interested in like the wedding coordination than what I was doing at the hotel.
Yeah.
And so like I'm more excited to talk to them about like their wedding and how I can help, and like
Right.
here's what other people have done in the past. And
Well, it sounds like it's a more sincere thing.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, obviously in the gym, I'm selling something very sincere. Like this is,
Right.
like you may not agree with it, but I believe it to be true, right?
Mhm.
Like you may disagree with what I believe, but I certainly believe it. And you can't dispute the fact that I believe that this
Right.
works. And I think it's that authenticity, you know, like I'm sure you've met couples where your brand of wedding planning and it just doesn't work.
right.
And you're like, look, I'll plan your wedding, but you should check out some other people first. 'Cause
Right.
I'm not sure you'll like what I do.
Right. Or like they need more services than we offer.
Yeah.
So then it's mutually beneficial for neither of us to work together, for us to not work together.
Exactly. And thank goodness you had that meeting
Right.
before money was exchanged,
Right.
right? Because then it's like, oh, well, you're either going to let someone down or you're going to have to give them the money back, or, you know, like
Right.
it's never going to end well.
Right.
I think the more significant the transaction, the more important it is to date before you marry, so to speak.
Right. Well, and especially in that situation, like weddings are such high emotion days, and usually one of the most important and memorable days of people's lives. So it's an important role.
For
you
sure.
want to make sure you're the right fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which could be said about most things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's really interesting to me how how certain experiences can shift you in a certain way, but then life brings you back to that. Like, when you're at the hotel, like, I don't like sales, but really you just didn't like a few jerks who were disappropriately motivated. What?
Right. And funny enough, I'm now working for one of the people at the hotel.
Really?
Yes. So my fourth part-time job.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So, yeah. So let's back up. Let's get back to the cubicle because we're a little all over the place, which is great. So you were working in the cubicle for the hotel, and you weren't like super jazzed about it. And so that was how many years ago when you left that?
I left that in 2011. So from like 2007 to 2011, I was in the cubicle. Well, at the hotel.
Yeah. In
various different positions.
So 7 years, you leave a cube life, and then 7 years later, you have 4 part-time jobs.
Yes.
Go. How'd that happen? What? I mean, what was the primary motivation for leaving the hotel initially? Was it just you didn't like it and you wanted to move?
Moving down here, I was interested in getting into meeting planning, event coordination, that kind of thing. So the hotel seemed like a good in because I was there like through the opening of the hotel. Since there's a convention center attached, they have a big conference services department. So my goal was to move over to that department and work there, which did not end up happening. So then I was reevaluating what I wanted to do. My background's in health and exercise science, so I decided to go back to grad school. So part of the reason I left, I continued to work at the hotel through my first year of grad school because my schedule allowed, but the second year was primarily internships, so I couldn't do both. So that was part of the reason for leaving when I did, but I was going to leave anyway.
Yeah.
So I went back to school for clinical exercise physiology.
Okay.
Which essentially sets you up to work in cardiac rehab, pulmonary rehab, diabetes clinics, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But from like an exercise perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
After graduating and doing all the internships where I was spent time in a cardiac rehab facility, in pulmonary rehab, in a couple different programs, and then realized that this is all pretty monotonous. I loved the interaction with the patients, and getting to know them and working with them, but essentially day in, day out, you're doing the exact same thing.
Right.
So it was really monotonous, even though I was only in, each of those internships for a couple months. And then it's like, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life now that I've gone to grad school and spent all this money?
Yeah.
But ended up at a corporate wellness company. And so there when I first started, I was planning biometric screenings. Organizations usually around open enrollment will have these wellness screenings that if their employees attend it and get screened, they can get, incentives, like reductions in their health insurance premiums, stuff like that. And so it seemed like a good fit because it tied in my educational background and then the kind of event coordination essentially.
Yeah.
But then they also had a department in the company that would create the corporate wellness programs for companies.
Oh.
So the entire program based on after the screening, you get all the data from your employees to see, okay, maybe 50% of your employees are at risk for diabetes, and like 75% of your employees have high blood pressure, or like whatever that may be,
Right.
and then you create programs tailored towards those chronic conditions that can help improve their health. So I was interested in getting into that area, but then that didn't pan out. So I found another job at a digital health company based in Vegas. So I was working from home, and I was evaluating health apps from a behavioral health standpoint. So, there's hundreds of thousands of health apps out there.
MyFitnessPal, something like that.
Yeah, those kinds of apps. Looking at them from the standpoint of, if I'm overweight or if I'm trying to start exercising for the first time, is this app going to help me reach my goal, or help me change my behavior?
What was the best app you discovered?
I don't know. It was hard because I don't remember there being like one app that had everything. Like, there were a lot of apps that were good that would, give you prompts and, give you rewards or badges or like stuff like that to help, like positive reinforcement, stuff like that. It had all the tracking features, but then it was like the interface wasn't good, or
I see.
So we were kind of looking at all those things, like from the consumer standpoint, like, is it user friendly? Is it going to help me change my behavior? Is it, especially when it got into like the chronic condition categories, like, is it scientifically accurate? So kind of looking at it from all angles. And we had developed like a rigorous like evaluation for it, and we'd put apps through those evaluations, and then recommend them to clients. So like organizations that have like a employee portal, or insurance companies that have like a patient portal, we'd recommend, whatever apps to be available for their consumers.
Interesting.
But that didn't quite pan out either. The company seemed to be kind of going downhill. They are kind of acting like jerks. So I decided that my time with them was done.
On to the next one.
Yes.
But at this point, you're still working like one job at a time.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, so at what point did you start to realize that, or maybe you didn't realize, like, was the realization that you just didn't like that corporate type work, and that you just wanted to follow more passion work and less, I don't know what the other word is, corporate work.
I think the last two places I worked at, the corporate wellness company and then the digital health one, they were both relatively small companies. They both claimed to be startups, but they were also like already a few years old, so I don't know if you could still claim to be a startup when you're a few years old. But I think they weren't run very well, and there were quite a few of us that would try to propose ideas and like how things could run better and like make suggestions, and we just weren't listened to. So I think that really turned me off. Like, if I didn't feel like I was being valued there, so then what's the point of like putting in all this effort and doing all this work if you could care less if I'm even there?
Right, totally.
So I think that got me thinking, like, why am I wasting my time on these people and these companies that don't seem to care? Like, they feel like I could be easily replaced, so let's let them just replace me.
That's a large reason why I left the Navy. I mean, I felt like to the boat I was important, and to a few humans I was important, but you leave the boat, another JO shows up.
Right.
Like that's the nature of the military. Like, next man up. I mean, by design, you are a cog in the wheel, right? Like, you kind of have to be, and it's good to experience that, and a lot of people thrive. The world, like, the wheels need cogs, right? The world needs that type of person, and thank God for that. But also, thank you for it not being me.
Right.
Right? Because it just doesn't fit. I think with some personalities, it's like I don't know, you want a little more creativity. You want to be able to express yourself. You want to, I don't know, implement your ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are like, nah, I'm good with originality. Just
right.
Like it's written here, I can do this all day long. Like I can follow this procedure.
Right.
And I will never make a mistake because it's written down. And they really like that. And that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the world needs procedure followers.
Right.
So then it was sort of that concept that led you to start to look for businesses that would more value your specific talents.
Yeah, and I think, well, I guess while I was still at my last full-time job, I started doing wedding coordination. Because after my wedding in 2015, I was kind of missing like the whole wedding planning stuff. And we had hired a day of coordinator to help with our wedding. So I stayed in touch with her and was talking to her about it. And she was looking to grow her team. So it was kind of a perfect timing kind of thing where I kind of fell into it.
Right.
But it was a good like outlet for me since I wasn't liking my full-time job. It was nice to have something on the side that I did enjoy.
Yeah. So a little passion project.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the company?
Capital Romance.
Capital Romance.
Based in DC.
That's right. If you have any wedding, you're more of a day of and venue kind of coordinator.
Yeah. So day of. So we will help with your planning process, but we won't do the planning for you.
Right.
So different from a full-scale wedding planner, but we can help guide you and offer vendor recommendations and stuff like that along the way, and then we're more involved in like the last couple months leading up to the wedding and then on the wedding day.
And Capital Romance?
Yep.
That's pretty sweet.
Capital
This
Romance.
podcast is brought to you by Capital Romance. CapitalRomance.com.
Yes, it is.
That's sweet.
Capital spelled with an O, not an A.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
People going, where the hell's Capital Romance?
Right.
So then you were sort of balancing both, and you started to work in your passion field.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did that change? How did that change your perception of work, or did it?
It got me thinking more about finding jobs that I was passionate about and that I enjoyed, or at least in fields that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think that last company just really wore me down.
Yeah.
And so, like you guys gave me the opportunity to start coaching, or to even like think about start coaching.
Right.
Because all my time in school, like with health and exercise science, like I never really thought I would be like a personal trainer or like working, full time in a gym or anything like that.
Right.
But I think having done CrossFit for a couple of years and seeing like that environment, and then thinking more about coaching, it was more, I guess, what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because we're not dealing with like the elite athletes. It's just everyday people and people that are looking to improve their health, and I think that aligns more with like what I had wanted to get out of cardiac rehab or one of those fields versus like trying to train like the next NBA superstar.
Right. Yeah. I think I forget what book it was. It might have been the Talent Code. Have you heard of the Talent Code?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a really good book. It's about the process of learning, basically, and the whole premise of this book is that the way we learn is by connecting neurological pathways. If you want to learn a golf swing, you need to take it from like 6 different movements of your arms and hips and legs and make that one complete movement. Well, the process of doing that is, your body's wrapping these. Read the book. Myelin. Something about myelin, something about the brain, and it basically makes a bunch of different mental connections into literally one mental connection. And why was I talking about that? Talent Code. Anyway, the book book's really good. Read the talent code. Man, what is going on? Not enough coffee today. Yeah, man. Anyway, so I almost want to pause it and like go back and listen to what we were talking about.
So you can edit this part out.
No, see, I'm not going to edit anything. People are going to have to struggle along with us. They're going to be sitting there like, how did he lose track? What an idiot. Who is this guy? But this is like a real conversation.
True.
I don't edit. Come on. If I edit, then people are going to start thinking that I edit. Like, if I do something that sounds smart or sounds brilliant, then people are going to be like, he edited that brilliant part in there. I want people to see me in all my ignorant glory, but also all of my glory.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, learning new things. So we were kind of talking. Oh yeah. Boom. Back on it. So the talent code was talking about how it's really important to have different levels of teachers. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Tiger Woods golf coach, and then there's the golf coach for 4-year-olds, and
right.
both are vital, and both connect to people in fundamentally different ways. And so, personally, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I have no interest in being a Matt Frazier coach. Like,
mm-hmm.
Sure, if Matt Frazier came and was like, "Here's $1 million, coach me," it's like,
right.
Sure, I'll be your coach. I'll take your $1 million, but you probably won't win the CrossFit Games. I mean, I can make you a better swimmer. Hear that, Matt? But that's about
could come in handy at the games. You never know.
It could. It very much could. But then again, I don't necessarily know. I mean, Ben Bergeron's a pretty phenomenal coach, so he could probably coach other people pretty
right.
well too. But let's just say that he sucked at that. But we make a connection with a certain type of person, and that connection really works, and we can we exist for a specific reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the sales thing, like when people come into the gym and their aspirations are to compete in CrossFit in a serious and high level, and okay, I mean, again, I'll take your money, but please check out at least 2 other gyms.
Right.
Like go somewhere else just to make sure that we're the best fit for you, because I'm not 100% sure we're going to be.
Right.
And I think that's I think that's important to kind of know who you are, but almost as a way of knowing who you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know, because anyway, so you liked the brand of CrossFit that we do, and you thought that that's the type of brand that you could coach under,
mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Yeah, and I think since I had been part of the community already for a couple years and knew the people and the types of people that we were attracting and that we had in the gym, it felt like it would be a good fit.
Yeah. What started you with the CrossFit journey from the beginning?
I'd always been involved in sports growing up,
Yeah.
Always pretty active, and after college when CrossFit started getting bigger, I'd heard about it, and like I'd always also been like done some weightlifting on my own, but just like at a Globo gym. And,
Yeah.
my only like real experience with it was from college, like learning some of the different lifts, and was always interested in trying CrossFit, but it was always so expensive. And so it was always like on my radar. It was just a matter of like finding the money and like having an opportunity to try it and do it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And so you started coach with us, and I think shortly after that we made you our admin person. You're talking like, for people who don't know, this is a big deal. You're talking to admin at Old City CrossFit right here, right now.
Yeah.
So if you decide to send a mean email,
I'm gonna get it.
That's right, and that's rude. Send nice emails, people. Most everybody sends, like, I'd say like 99% of our communication with humans is
nice and reasonable.
Nice. Yeah, it's that 1%.
Right.
That 1%. Yeah, no. So so you're doing the admin stuff, you're doing the wedding planning stuff, and then the third job is probably, I think, the coolest job you have.
Yeah. So by this point, I have left the. At this point I was seriously considering leaving the full-time job, and I am a big craft beer enthusiast and was a frequent shopper at the craft beer cellar, which conveniently is across the street from my apartment. And they posted an opening for part-time or full-time people, so I decided to apply.
That's awesome.
So once I found out that I was hired there, got the job offer there, then I quit the full-time job because I felt like the 3 part-time jobs would, one, were more interesting and things that I enjoyed doing,
Yeah.
but then also like would be enough income to cover what I was leaving behind.
Yeah. So I have a question that, so I guess the best way to frame the question is just to like the brief history of my education. So, high school did that, Naval Academy did that. Then I got this nuclear education through the submarine community, got, engineer certified in the nuclear Navy, left that, had a good job in the government because of all that education, left that, started a gym.
Right.
Which is where, where all I needed was the CrossFit L1 and no education at all. So part of me thinks about all of that education, like, did I waste my time? And that's something that I have debated, a lot. And I've come to the conclusion that on paper, no, I didn't need it. But certainly I wouldn't have been the human that education made me, which is the human who's capable of, running what I hope to be and what you guys agree is a good gym in DC, right? And so I think it's sort of like the education is sort of a means to self-development, and it's almost, I don't want to say it's meaningless, but largely for what I'm doing now it was.
Yeah.
So how do you feel with like your educational path to where you ended up?
Yeah, I think similar to you, like on paper it seems like a waste of time and money, although maybe not as much since I am coaching in the gym, so some of my background is applicable. It's just a little rusty and in the caverns of my brain, so
your education wasn't as wasted as mine.
But like you said, I think if I had studied something else, in undergrad or not gone back to grad school, I could very well be doing something completely different.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I was a computer science major, and when we started the gym, I literally had no idea how to make a website appear in the world. Like I had no idea, like no clue, and I can hide behind the fact that I was a computer science major in 2004, which is basically before the internet.
Right.
It's like 2004. Like we had those big monitors, the ones that were like really deep. Yeah. AIM was a huge thing. Facebook existed, but you didn't know about it. But barely,
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember joining Facebook when you had to have a .edu address in order to join.
Yeah, I was not there. I think I was like 2007 on Facebook.
Yeah, I think it was my senior year of college that I could join.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So so you don't necessarily feel like it was a waste.
Not completely.
But a little.
Probably a little.
Would you do it over again if you could? Like, would you? Would you study something different? Would you not go to school?
I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know what I would have studied instead. Like going into college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career afterwards.
Yeah.
But I knew, like, I was pretty good at science and math. I was interested in science, and then having always played sports growing up, I felt like something sports related would be where I would end up.
Right.
So the health and exercise science program that I did was like a good baseline. I think because there were people I went to school with, some went on to become athletic trainers, some went to PT school, some ended up going to med school. So it was like just a good baseline for like anything.
Yeah.
And so I felt like from there, like once I did that, then I could maybe figure out like, okay, I've got this background now, like where do I want to focus?
Right.
And it kind of worked out like that.
Yeah.
I guess and then also in college I was involved with the women's basketball team, so I saw like the sports management side of it too, and was interested, did that for a couple years.
Yeah.
I've kind of been all over the place.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm genuinely fascinated by people with non-traditional jobs, because it's I mean, it's where I've been for the last 5 years or so, and it's been awesome for me personally. It's also been extremely stressful and terrible in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways it's been really great. And you know, I think there's so many people who get stuck in a cubicle and they think that that's the only way, right? Like success, the path towards success is getting a nicer and nicer cubicle. And I just don't think enough people hear stories of wildly successful people, maybe not wildly successful, let's tamp down our success. Moderately successful people who've broken out of that cube life and are living, I mean, it's 10:32, we're drinking coffee, talking on a podcast that 10 people are going to listen to.
Right.
It's an awesome
And we
life.
both agreed this is the only thing we have to do today.
That's right. That's right. I was looking at my schedule. I don't have to coach later. I don't have any one-on-ones planned. I can't paint the walls, the stripes on the walls, because we're doing wall balls tomorrow or today. I don't even know. So this is great, you know. But with this comes, you know, working until 8:45 some nights, and with this comes, you know, weekends, and with this comes, you know, not as much money.
Right, and I think that was one thing that was holding me back for a while. I think just trying to figure out, like, because it was, you know, a corporate job with benefits, really good pay, I could work from home. Since I was doing the wedding stuff, I negotiated that I had a 4-day work week because of wedding stuff, you know, sometimes happening on Fridays. I had a pretty sweet gig. Yeah. And it was hard to leave, thinking about from like the financial perspective, like how can I find other work that I'll get compensated for that won't like change my quality of life or like the things that I want to do. So part of that, it's helpful that I have a husband who has a good paying job. So luckily I had that kind of second income from him. For sure. So we wouldn't, you know, have trouble paying rent or bills or like that kind of thing. But also like, obviously I don't want him to be the only person bringing in money, and like I wanted to like do my part. Right. So it was kind of stressful, and that's probably what stopped me from leaving sooner. But once I got the opportunity, like at the beer store, and like kind of crunched some numbers, I was like, okay, with these 3 jobs, I think we can make it work. It's not going to drastically affect our lifestyle and how we like to live. Yeah. And so I took the plunge.
That's cool. Were you nervous, or did you just, I mean, was it just one of those things where, you know, the writing was on the wall with the work that you were doing, and it was just like the next logical step, or did you feel like you were taking a leap?
I think initially when I first like really seriously started considering it, it was a little more nerve-wracking and more like taking a leap, like what am I doing, like why am I leaving a somewhat stable job and like all the perks that I have, but then once I got the job and told the company that like I was going to be leaving, it was kind of like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. Like it feels right. Like we'll see how this goes, and if it ends up like not working out, then I'll try and find another full-time job. Right.
Yeah, I think from my perspective at least, it was the process of being 100% okay with the worst case scenario, and then like not really believing, like truly not believing that the worst case scenario could ever possibly happen. First, super important. I'm okay if it does, right? Like I'm not betting whatever. I don't have kids. I didn't have kids at the time, but I'm not, you know, endangering my kid's life by making this decision, and now we're homeless, right?
Right.
So it's nothing that extreme, but figuring out what the worst case scenario is and being 100% okay with that, but then like having rational confidence, not irrational confidence, but having the rational confidence that that worst case scenario is very unlikely to ever happen.
Yeah.
And when I took the leap, it didn't feel like a leap at all. It felt like, man, this is going to be, it's a strong move to be sure.
Right.
But like I know I'm at least stepping on something that looks like a rock, right? It may sink a little bit. I might get my shoes wet, but I don't think I'm going to drown.
Right.
You know? And I think I get some people sometimes who ask me, you know, like, I have this opportunity, you know, should I take it? Like, well, what do you want to do? You know, does it feel super risky? They're like, yeah, it's super risky. Probably don't take it. You know, probably not. That probably sounds silly. I think people get this idea that, you know, entrepreneurs or people who, you know, work in different non-traditional fields who are more passion focused, that it's just like, caution to the wind, screw everything, we're just gonna live our life freely. Not exactly. Right. You know, not
there have
totally.
been some meltdowns along the way, and
for sure.
And but like you said, like I knew going into it, like we had to make some sacrifices. Like at the time, we were still we were looking to buy a house. Yeah. So like obviously leaving a full-time stable job and having 3 part-time jobs doesn't look as good to the bank as we would like. So like that's kind of taken a back seat.
Right.
But like I'd rather enjoy like how I'm spending the majority of my time.
Right.
Than like have a house and be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still have a big mortgage payment.
That's right. Yeah, you're life rich and apartment poor.
Right.
Or, how does that saying go? What's house poor and whatever. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if I would have stayed in the Navy, first off, that would have been the best financial move, no doubt about it. But then I would have been moving every few years, and the likelihood of, you know, finding and keeping a wife while that's your life is challenging to say the least.
Right.
And then then that's your plight. And that wasn't something, ultimately the reason, so I did this, I'm a big, ever since the swimming days, I'm a big visualizer. Like I would visualize my races to the point where like I would feel the pain that I knew was coming, and I knew, like I would like feel it. And so I was on the fence about getting out of the Navy or staying in, and I just visualized myself. I just put myself in this meditative trance. I literally just closed my eyes and thought about it. I thought about what it would be like to walk back onto a pier and then walk towards the submarine, cross the brow of the submarine, salute the flag, go down the ladder, and meet the department that I was going to lead. Because I'd go back as a department head, like a weapons officer, navigator. No chance they would have made me an engineer. And every step of that process made me more and more unhappy. It's like I was walking away from happiness, walking towards prison. It felt like, literally, that's what it felt like. And it's like, oh man, getting out of my car. It's like, all right, here we go. Like walking down the pier, like, oh, I could feel my heartbeat starting a little more. Walking across the brow, like saluting the flag. Seeing some people who are on the boat who know each other, but I don't know. They're like judging everything about me. Walking down the ladder, each step, going in, meeting the captain, crossing my fingers, hoping to the mighty Lord above that the captain is gonna be a nice guy. Because if he's not, I'm stuck.
Right.
And then meeting the XO, and then meeting the other people, and just being plopped in this environment that you have no control over, in a job that I wasn't anywhere close to being super passionate about, right? Like the only thing I was passionate about on the submarine were the people that I was with. And I think that's a common thing in military. It's like, I don't, like a lot of soldiers, like you read books about soldiers and they're not trying to win the war for America. They're just trying to get out alive and like protect the buddy next to them. And sure, maybe in the global context of what it means to be a soldier, they're fighting for, you know, something that they truly believe in. I'm not saying that soldiers don't fight for what they believe in by any stretch of the imagination. What I am saying is that in that moment, you're fighting for the person next to you. And I think that's what I connected most with in the sub life. And I just visualized that experience of going back to the boat, and I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't put myself in a position where like I wasn't super excited to be in. So I left something that that's a career, you know, that's a promising, you know, career. I left that to move my life in a better direction. And in the process, I didn't move it to a perfect place. I just moved it to a better place. Right. Nav C was better than the submarine, barely. But it still had a lot wrong. And then I moved again, and then again, and again. Like you're just constantly tacking until you're on the right course. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of how I made moves from one job to the other. It's like, okay, I liked these aspects of my job, but I don't like this part. So like when I find a new job, I want more of this and less of this. And it was just pivoting along the way until finding something that was a good fit, which has turned out to be multiple part-time jobs.
Right, but they're and that's what's really cool. Like that's probably the coolest part about. Not the coolest part about the coolest part about who you are as a person is the fact that you work 4 jobs. No, but like one really interesting thing about where you've put your life. You know, your life is really like, from what I know about you, you're passionate about food and cooking and, you know, beer and coffee and drinks, and like you're really passionate about this. You're passionate about fitness and health. You're passionate about, you know, weddings and planning and like because Capital Romance is kind of like a quirky little, you know, I mean, I would say non-traditional. Yeah,
we definitely, most of the couples we work for tend to have like non-traditional elements of their wedding. Very like personalized, like nothing you would typically see in like the bride magazines and stuff like that.
Right.
So it definitely fits my personality and like the type of wedding that I had myself.
Yeah. Almost spilled the coffee.
So it's definitely like a nice creative outlet, but then also like taps into like the event planning stuff that I like to do.
Right. And so you've been able to sort of curate a life of employment around some pretty big life passions. I think that's really cool. I think it's interesting how you kind of pieced it together and how you got to that point. As I finished our pot of coffee. Thanks, David.
Without spilling.
Yeah, it was dangerous.
Mostly.
I don't understand this cap because like it's totally closed, but the only way to get it to pour is to open it. But then when you open it, it doesn't pour very fast, and then by the time you get it like all the way open, it pops off. Anyway, Mr. Coffee. Yeah, passion. I think that's. How do you, like, did you just stumble across what it was that you were passionate about, or did you have to, like, be thoughtful about it? You know, did you have to think about it? Or were you just like, yeah, obviously?
I guess there was some reflection just looking at, like, how I spend most of my time, and, like, the types of people that we surround ourselves with. Like, my husband and I are both, turns out, super into beer, along with cooking and food and stuff. And, you know, if we look back at, like, time spent with friends, a lot of it is at, like, sharing beer and beer tastings and stuff like that. Going, like, when we go on trips, it's usually, like, we'll hit up the local brewery, or...
When we go on trips, we're usually drunk.
Not while we're driving.
That's right.
We are safe. But, like, yeah, when we travel, like, our travel destinations, or just what we do when we get to those destinations, typically revolve around food and drink.
Right.
So it it wasn't too hard to figure out, like, okay, these are things that I like in my everyday life. Like, how can I make this a job?
Yeah. That's interesting because it took me a while to realize what I was passionate about. You know, like clearly I have passions in life, and there's like things that I glom onto that are like really, you know, like I still am, but I'm not as much as I was. I was so into the Big Green Egg for like, I was most passionate about the Big Green Egg when I couldn't have one because I was in the Navy. I lived in an apartment that didn't have a place to put it, and I wasn't about to run ventilation out of my window. Thought about it, but I was like, I spent the vast majority of my time super passionate about the Big Green Egg without one.
Did you want to become a competitive, like, barbecue-er?
I was on the other end of the spectrum. I was legitimately getting out of the Navy. I contacted Big Green Egg to see if they needed salespeople because I was convinced I could crush. There were 3 people on my submarine who bought Big Green Eggs because the whole deployment I did a whole deployment. I knew I was going to get one. I didn't have one.
Yeah.
But I talked so passionately about the Big Green Egg that people texted me pictures or sent me an email or whatever, and they were like, "Look, Sean, I got one." Like, one guy got one before I got one. So I was sort of looking at it in the other way, you know, like, can I sell something that I truly believe in?
Mm-hmm.
Is there even a market for that? Maybe, but they never really got back. So that didn't work. Then I was really into Good Eats, but I started getting into Good Eats around like season 6 or season 7, so I think it was 11 or 12 seasons, and so it was kind of winding down by the time I got caught up, and
right.
So that, you know, that was nice, but there's nothing you could really do in a life of Good Eats. Like, I briefly looked at culinary school, but I don't know, that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And then I started CrossFit, and I was really passionate about CrossFit, but I was kind of unconsciously passionate about CrossFit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was learning so much, I didn't think I was good at it. And obviously you have to be an expert at something if you want to start a business around it. Like, obviously you have to be an expert if you want to do work that's your passion. So I just never connected the dots. I always thought it'd be cool, but it, you know, and back in 2008, 2009, CrossFit gyms were kind of hobbies for most people. They wasn't quite like career stuff. So I just didn't even have the wherewithal that you could want to do that, or that you could do that. And that was an evolution for me, for sure. It's just interesting how people discover what it is that they're passionate about. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is also realizing, like, so I love to cook and am really into food, and have become friends with some chefs in the area, and have, you know, helped them out at some events and stuff, and gotten a little bit of that experience, and have thought about, like, oh, maybe I would want to try working in a restaurant or something like that. But then when you think about it, like, restaurant life is tough. They don't get holidays off. They're usually working weekends. It's usually nights. And Justin has a regular 9-to-5 job, so if I did make that jump, then we would never really see each other.
Right.
And so it's kind of about, like, while following your passion, still trying to figure out, like, how it works with your life.
Yeah.
Because similarly, like, with the wedding stuff, like, I love doing the weddings and meeting, working with, you know, the couples that I've had the chance to work with, and people have asked me, like, would you want to make that your full-time thing? I was like, well, the only way to do it is to take more weddings, and then weddings are usually on the weekends, and then I'd have no weekends to do stuff for myself or with Justin, and that free time that we would normally have together is eaten up by the weddings. Yeah. So I think it's about following your passions, but then, like, still trying to balance, like, what you really want out of your life.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I would also throw another point out there. Like, my experience was starting the gym, being so excited about it, then very quickly being so exhausted from it. Like, almost immediately it was like, oh, Like we were racing to get it open, but opening was like when it started. You know, by that point I was exhausted. And I remember like a month or two into it, waking up and having to answer emails and write programming, and I just remember I was just like looking at my computer, questioning my entire existence. Like, oh, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? This is so much work and I don't want to do any of it. I just want to sit on my couch, take a nap. So I took a nap. And I woke up from the nap and I was like, all right, like work is going to be work. You know, there's going to be aspects to every job that you don't want to do.
Right.
And there's parts of every job that suck. I mean, frankly. Even if it's a job and your passion. The whole idea that if you do something you love, you never have to work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Just absolute not true. You'll like a lot of days.
Right.
But you'll also hate a lot of days.
There's always going to be at least one task that you hate.
Right.
But it has to get done.
Yeah, and I think the difference for me at least has been the difference between being excited about the mission, being excited about the overall goal, being excited about what we've accomplished week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, versus my relative lack of excitement for similar missions in other jobs, right? And when I was working for the government, it was really hard to get fired up and excited for an entire year's worth of work that got one manual updated.
Right.
That was tough. Yeah. You know? And in the Navy, like, certainly I was, you know, connected to the mission of America and, you know, this and that. But even in the global military complex, like, not in like the conspiratorial negative way, but just, like, even in that context, sure, what we did as a submarine was important and relevant. But I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, I'm glad other people are doing it, but I'm also glad I'm not doing it anymore. You know? Right. Not because I didn't like it, not because I don't believe in it, but just because it wasn't for me. And I think with the gym, it's a mission that I totally connect with, right? Because I help create it. But it's, and so I look at the mission, and then now it's like my work is going towards something that I truly believe in, so my work feels more meaningful. Right. Sort of the antithesis of what you were describing when you were unhappy in your work before. It's you felt like your work wasn't meaningful. Yeah. So I think passion and meaning, I think, are connected, if not the same. Does meaning create passion? Possibly. Or does passion create meaning? Did I just say the same thing twice?
No, you said that. Okay. You said the reverse.
Yeah. Yeah. Why work? Like, why do we? I mean, do we just work for money? We're getting deep. I like this. Yeah. Let's think about it this way. If you had all the money in the world, after you traveled and did all the things, I mean, you'd have to do something with your time, right? What would you do?
I think, I don't know.
Admin at Old City Crossroads.
Because Justin and I have had this conversation, like if we won Mega Millions and or Powerball at the same time and had billions of dollars, after we, like you said, bought the houses, helped our families out, did all the things.
Helped your gym out.
What would we do? And like, I would get bored if I just sat around the house all day, like swimming in money. Right. Like Scrooge.
Yeah, and I mean, you could buy all the beer in the world, but you can't drink it all at the same time.
Right.
You know,
like, you could try.
Well, yeah, but that's part of the enjoying being a billionaire for a few months.
Right.
But infinite gluttony is.
But
just.
Like it would just
gluttony.
get boring.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like I would still want to work or volunteer, or do something still in the areas that I am passionate about.
Right. So I mean, ultimately, life would look pretty similar.
Right.
You would just.
I would just like have a house.
Yeah, the way that you lived would be dissimilar.
Yeah. But I think like day to day.
Right.
It'd be like maybe not 4 jobs, maybe like 2.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You'd be working you'd be doing similar things, but maybe in just, slightly different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that a lot too. I would love to say that I would, coach 15 hours a week and I would definitely want to be connected with the gym. Billionaire Sean would definitely be connected with the gym. Honestly, what I would do, I'm gonna throw this idea out there. I don't know if this is real, but this is kind of what I want to say. I would like cap membership. Whoever's a member when I win the millionaire, that's it. And then we just make the gym amazing. Like everybody gets their own barbell, like gold plated everything, free membership for everybody, but only for people who were members before. And then it's just like a big fun group of people who are awesome and I love hanging out with. And that's it. And then as people leave and move and as life goes on and people,
then like spots open up. So it's like an exclusive
place. But then I don't know if I would want the people who would want to join the gym. It's like this free billionaire gym, right? Like I only want to be around the people who enjoyed the gym when it was
not billionaire gym,
like hole in the wall, soft floor gym. You know, like even the people who are joining after we moved to 810 are kind of soft. Just kidding, guys. I love you all. But I guess
kind of miss the trampoline floor.
Yeah, it's. Have you listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History? So it's a great podcast. He does like 5 hours on historical events, and I love him. He's amazing. He did this one series on the Wrath of Khans, and he talks about, and this is true for the Romans. This is true for basically like this is the story of civilization, right? And it's even true for families and like small units, but it's the thing that makes someone great or a society great, propels them to expansion. But then the expansion removes them further and further away of that catalyst that made them great. And so each generation is less great than the original generation that made greatness a possibility. And so the example with the Khans is that, they were steppe nomads, and their toughness and their ability to survive and hunt and fight, literally for survival, is the thing that made them so amazing at conquering. And so the more and more they conquered, the more and more wealth they accumulated. The more wealth, the more gluttony, the less they train, the less, the less. And eventually they're no longer, they're mere shadows of the original Khan or
they're
the original
not
Mongols.
anymore.
Right. Same with the centurions, the Roman centurions. Like as Rome expanded, you can't just take someone from outside of the Roman society and who was raised by a different society and just teach them how to be a centurion. No, it's the fact that you were raised in Roman society that made you that. It's all the intangibles of that. And man, I lost my train of thought again. What is wrong with me today? Did I not sleep well enough last night?
The community.
That's right. Yeah. And so
the pre-billionaire gym community.
Exactly, right? And so that same thing would start to happen if I made a gym that was like the nicest, most amazing, most wonderful gym, but all the people who joined, like all the people who were there when it wasn't all that, who were there for the right reasons, now people are going to start joining for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So I'd have to cap it. And that would be it. Like, no more.
Or have a rigorous interview process to become a member.
Or open up 810. Like, I would have to...
It's like the training ground?
That would be the gym. That would be the gym. That's what I would do. Yeah. I would have the faux gym. And then once you were a member of the faux gym for 3 years, you'd get into the secret society.
Although, I'd have to say, because I am one of the few founding fathers left. There's only a handful of us.
That's right.
And I feel like the community from the time that we joined then till now has not changed very much. Like I feel like we've been able to maintain that same sense of community and kind of casualness within the gym.
Yeah.
And it's carried on.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of like we're attracting the right people, and like you said, when you do the one-on-ones or do your quote-unquote sales pitch, it's about finding the right people that will fit in the community, and vice versa too. Like they need to decide if it's the right fit for them or not.
And that actually is one of the best things. Like CrossFit DC opening 4 months after we opened down the street was probably the best thing that had ever happened to us, and I was scared out of my mind. I was like, oh no, this is terrible. Like we don't know what we're doing. We're a brand new gym, and here comes the great CrossFit DC.
Right.
And I genuinely believe they're a great gym. Like, this isn't disparaging to them at all. I truly believe that they're a great gym. I mean, how can you not be, right?
Right.
I mean, you can easily not be a great gym, but how can you not be a great gym and have, two
multiple locations.
Right. And so they opened down the street, and at that time we were just trying to be everything to everybody. At the time we knew who we were, but we were pretending to be other people to, make everyone happy.
Mm-hmm.
When they opened up, it was like, oh great, this is awesome. Now I'm just going to be more me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to create like a clear distinction between who we are and who they are. Not because who we are is inherently better. It's only better that it's better for me in that it's a better expression of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's better for us in that it's a better expression of who we are.
Right.
It's not universally better. And so them opening allowed me to say, look, there's two different gyms.
Mm-hmm.
This is who we are. And I don't have to pretend to be anybody I'm not. And if you don't like who we are,
right.
please,
yeah.
go to them. Go
mm-hmm.
to them. Because I know CrossFit works. And if our CrossFit doesn't work,
maybe
almost
theirs
guaranteed theirs will, right. And, and vice versa is absolutely true. So
mm-hmm.
if you're at CrossFit DC and you're looking for a new gym, no, just kidding. No, seriously.
We're only 4 short blocks away.
That's right. No, but in all seriousness, there's so many people in this world who aren't doing CrossFit who would benefit from CrossFit. So just join any gym and you're going to be better served.
Mm-hmm.
I say this all the time. CrossFit literally will work for anyone. It doesn't have to work for everyone, but it will.
Yeah, and I've told lots of people, like friends that aren't doing CrossFit but are interested, or they're intimidated, or they're scared to do it. Every CrossFit gym is different. They're going to have different personalities based on who's running it, the other people in the gym. But as long as they have good coaches there that will pay attention to what you're doing and make sure you're doing the movements right, it's going to be safe. And then it's just a matter of finding the right fit for you.
Right.
So, try out a couple gyms, see which one you feel most comfortable at, and then that's going to be the one that you'll probably be the most successful at.
Yep. I say this all the time as well. CrossFit gyms are like coffee shops. You can get a latte anywhere, but for whatever reason, Makedo's a little different than Peregrine, is a little different than Y Down,
mm-hmm.
it's a little different than Starbucks. And you just got to find the gym that you like. You got to find the coffee shop you like. You got to find the bar that you like. Big Board, Haymaker, great places, but they're kind of different places.
Mm-hmm.
What speaks to you more, and what community do you better jive with?
Mm-hmm.
What coaches do you like working with? What's your motivational style? What gym matches that? What drives you? What pushes you? And then all these factors go in. I mean, the worst thing you can do is just not join a gym.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's literally the worst thing. Not the worst thing you can do, but I mean, the accountability and everything that you get from it. Clearly, I'm biased. Clearly, we're biased. But yeah, I would if I was a billionaire, in all likelihood, I would probably I'd buy a row house. I would but I would want to be. I'd probably still coach a few times a week, once or twice a week. I'd take my helicopter from here to the gym. I'd land on top of the gym, obviously.
Right.
Because I don't know. I also don't know if when you become a billionaire, I would imagine that you start running in circles of people who have more power and are just bigger. So I don't know if if I would meet people as billionaire Sean who would allow me the ability to amplify my mission, make my mission bigger. Then I don't even know if I'd want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If I could. It's impossible to say.
Right. We'll just have to win Mega Millions and then find out.
And then see who's a liar. Yeah, because I mean, I absolutely wouldn't do life the exact same way I'm doing life. But I don't necessarily know if life would get better.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I don't play the lottery. I don't want to win it. Take your money. And that's an interesting thought. Where would you travel? Where would be do you have any bucket list travel places?
I would like to. Well, high up on my list and Justin's list is Japan.
Yeah.
Haven't been to Japan. We've been. Well, I've been to other parts of Asia. We did a trip to China a few years ago.
It's cool.
But Japan would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to South America, so that would be cool.
Nicaragua.
I've heard
Is
good
that
things.
South or
Or
Central?
is that Central America? I don't remember.
We're so bad at this.
Um,
I'll edit that part out.
Yeah.
Chile. I've been to Chile.
Yeah, I'd like to go there.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. They have delicious wine.
Mm.
I met the most beautiful man in the world, Antonio. We were doing a wine tasting in this, like literally this cave type wine cellar, and there was a big table and there was a group of us, and he pours the wine, and he's a very, very attractive human, and he's, you know, like all the wine people, he's very, I don't know, he just knows, he knows his way around a glass of wine, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to say. And he goes, here we have whatever, and he goes, let us nose. He like looks around the room, and he takes his wine, and he sticks it's not just like a little.
Right, he like sticks his nose
His
in the glass.
whole nose in the glass, like so deep that it's like, holy cow. And he swirls it, and he inhales this burst of wine aroma with the passion that I could only hope to accumulate through a lifetime of enjoying wine. And then just like, I mean, we were talking about passion earlier, right?
Right.
Like this guy was the embodiment of passion, which is why I
For
think,
wine.
yeah, like I mean, clearly, like he was structurally just a good-looking human, right? But I think one of the reasons why I connected, like, so, whatever. He's a beautiful man, and I think part of the fact, like, I think humans respond really well to passion, right? Like, I think passion is an exciting thing, right?
Right.
I think we want to follow passionate people. I think we want to live passionately. And I think when we see passionate people, it's easier for us to be more excited about what they're passionate about than to try to figure out how to cultivate that same passion in another field.
Right.
And that can be used for good or evil, right? You know, like Hitler, passionate dude.
Right.
Wrong
Without
way.
white people.
Right.
And that's it.
Bad. But then, then you get, passionate people about beer, and they open wine cellars, and the beer cellar or whatever, and they create a community around that. You get passionate restaurant owners who create, people love passion. That's what I connected with Antonio more than his steely brown eyes and amazingly beautiful skin. He goes, let us nose. And his whole existence was in that nose. And then we talk about things that I didn't smell, but apparently he did.
Right. And then you swirl it.
Then we swirl it, and by this point I'd done a few wine tastings, and I knew how to look the part, but I'm 100% phony.
Right.
And then he goes, let us mouth. I lost it. I started laughing so hard. And he ignored me like a consummate professional, and then he does the mouth thing and the like gargles. He does the whole thing, right? Anyway, I want to cultivate. I'd want to live that existence. Like I'd want to figure out what it is in life that I could wake up every day and like be Antonio passionate,
right,
and do that. That's what I would do if I was a billionaire. I would just be in constant search for that. I would also go back to Chile.
Try and find him.
Do a podcast.
You could fly him in.
Yeah.
For private wine tastings.
That's what I would do. Honestly, I would just learn and get good at so many things. Like before the spike ball tournament, I would find the world's best spike ball people. I would put them up in a house
and just play spike ball.
We play spike ball all day, every day, until I got obnoxiously good at spike ball. But yeah, and then I would like repeat with the next thing, and then the next thing, badminton.
Those Chinese are tough at badminton, though.
Yeah,
they're real good.
I played badminton in Diego Garcia with my friend Andrew Townsend in a Navy base tournament, and this team brought their own badminton mittens.
Oh.
Brackets.
Oh. I've was like, they wear mittens?
No, I just don't know what to call it. I know the thing's a birdie,
the racket,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought a racket, which was really interesting because the only way to get there is by ship. So I don't know. I don't know if they were just employees there and they flew in. Oh, well, you can obviously fly in. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, they had their own rackets and they crushed us.
Yeah, we used to have to play in middle school and maybe high school gym class. I was not good at badminton.
You were a badmintoner?
Yep. Bad.
Yeah. Anyway, that's cool. Passion.
Mhm.
What else you got?
Find it.
Find it. Yeah. Seriously, find it.
Find it.
Look
Pursue
for
it.
Yeah, and I think it's about continuously trying, right? Like exploring new things, and just like the sales process is about creating a yes or a no. I think that's the passion process too.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating a yes or no. Do I like watercolors? Yes or no? With that is you got to try something for long enough to get over the newbie's hurdle, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't say that you like or dislike CrossFit after 2 months, maybe after 3 months, definitely after 6 months. You can be like, this isn't for me.
Depending on how often you come.
Sure, right? Yes, yeah. 30 workouts. After 30 workouts, you can tell me, and I will accept it, that CrossFit isn't for you. 30 workouts in less than 3 months. There we go. Lots of caveats here.
But also figuring out why you don't like it, or what aspects you do like and what aspects you don't like, so that in your next pursuit of something, you can do more of what you like and do less of what you didn't like.
Exactly. Yeah, like this is a great segue to my latest passion, is jiu-jitsu. So I joined a gym recently, and I was like, the process of getting there was a huge evolution. I tried many things. When I first started CrossFit, like CrossFit was the all-consuming passion of my life, right? I woke up every single day. I couldn't read enough about it. I couldn't learn enough about it. I made up all the workouts. I was there all the time. And then I opened a gym, and it was good, but it just changed, right? Like the passion I had for performing CrossFit changed more into the passion I have for administering good CrossFit, right? And it's a slightly different tack,
right?
But it weakened the passion I have for actually doing CrossFit in the process. And so the past 4 or 5 years has been me looking for the next thing, right? And I kept trying to force CrossFit to be a thing, because I felt like if it wasn't, then I was being hypocritical. I was being a hypocrite. And it's just like, I have to be the best at CrossFit,
right? Or because I own the gym,
right? And that's not the truth, right? I don't even have to be the best CrossFit coach. I need to work with the best CrossFit coaches. I need the best CrossFit coaches on my team,
right?
But I need to be the best at creating the best CrossFit gym. That's what I need to be the best at.
Right.
Pretty good at that. Not quite where I once was at CrossFit, but decent enough, I guess. And so I was, forcing the CrossFit thing, and it wasn't really working. I couldn't really create traction with it. And then I started looking at, like other things without really dissecting what it was about CrossFit that I connected with, and looking for similar things. So I would try, mosaics, or I would try reading more, or like other things. It's like, but that wasn't what I connected with about CrossFit. Like the thing, once I started to become more conscious about it, the thing that I connected the most with CrossFit is that it was a physical activity. Like I got to use my body.
Right.
It was a challenging activity, so I got to push my body. And it was an opportunity that offered literally limitless growth. Like there was no end to how far I could push my body, right? I tried getting back into basketball, swimming, soccer. All these things were good, but it just wasn't like, and it like CrossFit's very much an individual type thing. Like I don't need 12 people to practice it, which is nice. And so I started thinking about looking for other things in that context of what it is that I really liked about CrossFit, what else is in that world of CrossFit. And I also listen to a lot of Joe Rogan and Jocko Willing podcasts, and all they talk about is jiu-jitsu. So I was aware of it.
Yeah.
And so then I started thinking about jiu-jitsu, not in the context of, oh, let me do something else to get fit, but it's like, okay, here's something where I'm going to use my body. Here's something that's infinitely, like, there's an infinite amount of knowledge to acquire.
Right.
There's no end to this journey.
Tons of different skills to learn.
Exactly. And it's extremely challenging day in and day out. So I'll be challenged, I'll use my body, and there's no end to it. So that's basically the same as CrossFit. And I started back in December, and I've been going 4 to 5 times per week ever since. And it's like, it's amazing how fixing one thing in your life puts everything else back in perspective. I'm drinking a lot less, like I'm cooking a lot more, I'm a lot more motivated, I'm sleeping better, I'm like reading more sophisticated books, you know? Like it's all the intangibles that fall into place when you fix one aspect of your life that's out of alignment. And for me, like I've always been active, I've always been using my body, and I fall out of alignment with myself when I don't have that outlet for like physical aggression. I mean, not like aggression, but you know, like physicality. And the irony is, I'm generally a lazy person. Like, I'm generally lazy. When I would swim, it's like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Right.
It's so weird that the thing that I need most in my life is the thing that I'm less likely to do naturally without a ton of intentionality. And that's what's so counterintuitive with passion, because it's not always the thing that you always want to do. It's the thing you know you need to do. It's the thing that you're most happy having done, perhaps, is a way to think about it. That's how I found, like, that's how I refound passion, right? And when I'm passionate in one area, like a rising tide lifts all boats, like no doubt about it for me, personally.
Yeah, and I think, like for me, the switching from out of that full-time job where I was miserable and just like in a bad mood most of the time and frustrated and having meltdowns like every other day because I hated it, and switching to other things that I enjoyed and were more passionate about, just like my mental well-being was so much better. Like I said earlier, like leaving when I made that phone call and said, like, basically putting in my 2 weeks notice, after that, like, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Like, there was just a change in my mental health, probably.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt better. I was more excited about the things I was doing.
It changes your whole outlook on life. Like, I don't want to be so dramatic with this, you know, with this sort of, it's almost a theoretical concept, because, you know, this conversation could mean one thing to somebody who's like on the edge of taking a big risk and starting a business, and it could just, you know, mean somebody picks up water painting. Like it's so dramatically different for everybody, but it literally changes your mindset on everything, right? Like what otherwise would have sent a day into a bad day, whatever. Because you weren't so drained in all the other areas of your life. You were emboldened. Yeah,
and like just my like relationship with Justin is better. Like he's not having to listen to me like vent and console me all the time and like tell me things are gonna get better. Like, so I think it's like for you, it's made like you found that physical like thing again and like have improved other areas of your life. Like for me, same thing, just in different ways. And I think like we're not saying like go quit your job and find 5 part-time jobs to work, but I think there's little ways you can figure out like what you are passionate about, and like you said, if it's like picking up a new skill or just trying something new and taking little steps to figure out like what you like and what makes your life better and more enjoyable.
Like what's I mean, if something is a struggle every day, that's probably not your thing. Now, there are definitely days where I do not want to wake up and go to jiu-jitsu, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But there are rarely days after I've gone, and I'm like, this, I shouldn't have gone.
Right.
Like I'm always, and it's just my personality, I just like, for whatever reason, I just resist things that are healthy for me. It's like, oh, the salad, oh, God, every bite's misery. And then afterwards I'm like, that salad was great.
Mm-hmm.
Same with CrossFit. It's like, it's a struggle to get there, but when I'm there, after I'm done, it's like, hell yeah, that was awesome.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu, exact same. And I think when it starts to become, if the end isn't something that's satisfying, then that's a hint that maybe you haven't found quite the thing that fires you up, that gets you excited. But there is a learning curve with everything.
Right.
I mean, I tried surfing for 3 years when I lived in California, and I left California definitively stating, I don't like surfing. I don't like it. I don't get it.
Right.
It's like skiing, but you got to hike up the mountain. People do it.
Right.
I don't get it. Doesn't
But
make
you
any
tried
sense to
it.
me. Yeah.
And you just realized it wasn't for you.
Yeah, you got to get past the learning curve of things, right? Because after everything has a point of just awkwardness where you don't get the game.
Right.
Right. I was talking to somebody about 80%. Sean Chua. I was talking to Sean Chua about getting 80% competency makes you understand what it takes to get 100% competency, but it also so now you see the arc of the sport. You know now how deep the sport goes.
Right.
And you're pretty competent in the sport. And that's it. You can stop there. That's fine. I think accumulating 80% competency in something happens relatively quickly, or it happens quickly relative to accumulating 100% competency.
Right.
And I think that's the point where things start to get fun for a lot of people and a lot of different things. That's where you're not focused on the basics, you're focused on the strategy and the mechanics. And if all you're worried about in spike ball is hitting the ball with your hand, it's not fun. But when you're worried about like psyching someone out and like, the strategy of it, then it gets really fun. So anyway, find your passion, people. Try new things. Especially CrossFit if you haven't tried CrossFit. I guarantee you will be passionate about CrossFit. No, but seriously, try new things. Learn new skills. Try new things. What else?
And don't be afraid of not liking it.
That's it. That's right. Exactly. Because not liking it is your opportunity to find something you like later.
Right.
Boom. Be passionate, y'all.
Do it.
Perfect way to end. Cool. I thought that was awesome.